Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, I'm happier to be here. My family is like everybody else. There are people in it that we don't like. My family's like everybody else, a bunch of sycophants, a bunch of people trying to curry favor and all that. So I'm happy to be away from the phoniness for a while. No, I'm just kidding. It's a great family. But I had just a marvelous hour and a half with my grandfather today. He's 100 years old, and I know this sounds funny to say, but he does not look a day over 75. And he walks around, and he still practices law 8 hours a day, and he just mesmerized people today. It's quite a gift and quite a unique opportunity to have as a relative someone who's lived 100 years old and to have them still be as sharp as a tack mentally. The only thing he's lost is eyesight. He can't drive a car. He can still see, but he can't drive a car. To be able to have that kind of walking history with what they've done to textbooks these days, it was an amazing thing. I want to thank you for inviting me here tonight. This is all new to me. This 3 years is kind of overnight, although I've been at this for 17 years. But in the past 3 is when it has really blossomed, and the opportunity to see you, meet you, and to let you see me, for you to discover that I'm not some cad, that I'm not some hateful brute, is an opportunity. Now, you brought up the 60 Minutes piece, Elise. The 60 Minutes, I've had some fun with this. The 60 Minutes piece, they started working on in January. I was taking a cruise to the Caribbean with 1,200 listeners, and they wanted to go. So they went. Steve Croft doing the piece, which is good because he's the lone conservative on the 60 Minutes staff. He is the one who put together a great report debunking the entire theory of acid rain. In essence, there is none, contrary to the doomsday. So I was happy when they assigned him to the story. So they go with me to Antigua and so forth, and some Caribbean islands. And as usual, as you can predict, they showed up at the Caribbean island on our itinerary, which was the poorest and the most destitute and the closest to looking like it was the third world. And they said, "Come on, Rush, get off the ship and go walking through town." I said, "I don't get off the ship on cruise ships. I don't get off. I stay." "Well, come on, for us, you should do it." I said, "You guys want to get me as I am. You don't take me off the ship. Come on, get off the ship." So they wanted me to walk through town, and I did. Got some friends together. Just had rained. It was steamy. We're walking through the destitute sections of St. Lucia, this little island, and I know what they're trying to do. I know they're trying to paint a picture of a conservative who doesn't care, a heartless, cruel SOB who doesn't care about the poor and the downtrodden. So we're walking down this thing which would pass for a street, and on the sidewalk was this woman, a black woman, selling shirts. And she stopped me and said, "Try on a shirt, buy a shirt for me." And I looked at her and I said, "There's no way you have a shirt that'll fit me. There's no way." Of course, the 60 Minutes camera and this boom microphone. By boom microphone, it's a long microphone. The microphone itself is that long with a big windscreen on it. And the pole that it's on is about 20 feet so that the guys don't have to get near you, but they all see it. And I guess 60 Minutes regularly goes to St. Lucia because this crowd acted like they knew who they were. And this woman said, "Yes, I have one that'll fit you." And I said, "Well, all right, I'll try it on." She grabbed this god-awful yellow shirt with parrots and pansies and stuff on it. And I'm wearing clothes just like today, except I don't have the jacket on and I don't have a tie on. I tried this thing on over my shirt, and it fit. It actually fit. So now I've got this dilemma. Everybody said, "Come on, Rush, buy it. It's you." 60 Minutes camera, don't forget, is there rolling, that boom mic right in the middle of everything. And he said, I said, "How much is it?" She said, $15. $15? Is that all? So I grabbed my wallet, got out $20. I said, "Here, keep the change." Knowing full well what 60 Minutes was hoping I would do, try to bargain her down to $2. And as we're walking away, and I'm wearing this god-awful shirt. I don't know if this is in the piece, but this happened. And we're walking down the street, somebody says, and that microphone's still there, the microphone's still there, somebody says, Rush, why didn't you negotiate? These people like to bargain. That's what they do. I said, come on. Look at that poor woman's condition. Look, I just nailed it to him. This I know will make the cut. I know this next episode will make the cut. I don't know it, but I have a hunch that it will, knowing 60 Minutes. As you people know, one of the biggest problems I've had in my career is harassment from militant homosexual groups. ACT UP, I agree. ACT UP and the Gay Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. So Steve Croft, as they told me they would do, they're going to go talk to people. In fact, they went to talk to Molly Yard, and who is the general of the feminazis. This is why I think it's going to be a good piece. Croft came to me, this is a roll of the dice. Croft came to me and he said, look, you know how you're always saying they don't have a sense of humor? I said, yeah, say that during the interview, because we can back that up. I couldn't make them laugh, Rush, no matter what I went down there to say. These women at the Now Gang just wouldn't laugh. So if you'll just say in the interview that they have no sense of humor. So I did. I hope that Molly Yard is not guffawing in this piece after Anyway, he says, look, we went and talked to members of the Gay Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, GLAD, about you. I said, no, it's not GLAD, it's GLAC. He said, what? No, it's GLAD, Gay Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. I said, no, GLAC. It's a Gay Lesbian Alliance Against Criticism. You don't need to defame them to make them mad. All you have to do is criticize them. They're just a bunch of people who don't want to go through life being annoyed at having to deal with people who disagree with them. So he smiles, says, well, we went and talked to them. We said now, I think the guy's name was Will Williams. Mr. Williams, what do you feel about 60 Minutes doing this piece on Rush Limbaugh? Here we're going to put him on the most watched television show in America. 30 million people are going to see this man for 15 minutes one night. What do you think about it? He said, well, Mr. Croft said to me, he said, Mr. Limbaugh, he said that they're happy, that they can't wait for homophobes and bigots and racists like you to be exposed to the mainstream. It'll be the end of your show. When the American people find out what you're really like, that'll be the end of it. Now, what's your reaction to that? And I leaned forward, and I cupped my hands, and I said, in his dreams. And Croft said, surely you have more of a reaction than that. In his dreams. He just kind of cocked his head and said, don't you have any more? I said, look, Mr. Croft, you know and I know that I am the mainstream, and this show of yours is going to double my audience in his dream. I know. I have a sneaking suspicion that that will make the piece. Anyway, to give you the idea when this thing is going to air, we were supposed to air in March. It didn't because of the Gulf War. It got moved back. It's a profile. It's not really a news piece, so it may not be a hit piece. I think the focus of this piece is, who is this guy, and where did he come from that we don't know about him? And I think it's going to be a good piece. I think it's going to be a piece on balance everybody's going to like. And this fall, it was supposed to air within the first 2 weeks, which hasn't happened. And when it looked like we might have to send jets back into Kuwait and Iraq, I started lamenting on the air, oh no, my piece was supposed to air last spring and it got broomed because of the war, and now we're about to go to war again. My 60 Minutes piece is never going to air. So Croft heard that and called. And he's just last Wednesday, you criticizing 60 Minutes on your show? I said, no, not criticizing 60. I'm making a joke. I'm having a little fun with this. You people are never going to... It's going to air in the next 3 weeks. Keep up the promotion. And he hung up the phone. We'll see. Have you all heard... I have this funny little story, and I love to tell this because I think a lot of the things I do in humor, by the way, and I'm during the course of my remarks, I'm going to touch a little bit on how I do what I do, the way I do it, and why, so that you'll have a better understanding. I don't want to go through this program being misunderstood. I don't want people saying, "What did he say? What did he mean by that?" I mean, that's not good if people say that. And I hate this business of, does he really believe everything he says? Of course, why would I lie? I can't believe, you really believe it? My family, last night, we're at dinner in Kansas City, and there is this just sullen, sourpuss woman who's sitting across the table from me, who's a friend of one of my cousins. It's about how she sounded all day. And she was mad because of the restaurant we were at, and I had chosen it. So she said, "Why do you like this?" She's never met me before. Why do you like this restaurant? Don't you know I hate beef? I said, "I never heard of you, much less know what you don't like." Anyway, my cousin was telling me that she came up to him before I had arrived and said, "Does he really believe all the stuff he says?" And he says, "Oh, about 60% of it." And my own cousin doesn't even get it, so you can imagine the challenge that is before me. Anyway, God is watching the Joan Rivers show, or the Sally Jesse Raphael show. I think the topic is castrated men who still fear the bicycle bar. And is that okay, Phyllis?
I don't know.
I said, "Phyllis, how really close is this crowd? I mean, can I have a little fun, maybe with some Ted Kennedy off-color humor?" And she said, "You better tell me first." So I told her the joke. While we were eating dinner, you wonder what we were talking about. I was telling her this joke. "Oh, you can't tell them that." So sorry, you can't hear it because Phyllis says no. So I thought that... No, really, trust her judgment. Now, see this how clever I am. Now they're demanding the joke.
I'm ready to show mine.
You what?
I'm ready to show.
So now see, if I tell the joke and they don't like it, it's their problem because they demanded it.
Blonde jokes.
No blonde jokes. Of course, my favorite blonde joke... what do you call a brunette standing between two blondes? An interpreter. How do you know if a secretary is a blonde? Because you can see white out on the computer terminal. Come on, Elise, lighten up. Gee whiz. You're not even blonde. It's white. You're exempt.
Not funny.
So anyway, God was watching this, the Sally Jesse Raphael show and just was livid, so he called a reporter at the New York Times. He said, "Look, this is God, and I'm sitting here and I'm watching this show, and I've had it. I have done my best with humanity, but it was a mistake. Humanity is botching everything I created. And I'm sorry, but the world ends in 2 days." And the guy says, you can't do that. You can't. I mean, Gorbachev is just now firmly in power. You can't give him a chance. Gorbachev, Schmorbachev, says God. World ends in 2 days. The New York Times guy's resigned and says, "Well, can I have an exclusive?" God says, "No, I'm going to call some other papers. I'm going to call the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and the Washington Post." The New York Times guy says, "Well, that's not bad. That's good enough." They hang up the phone. God makes the other calls, and the papers start working on their final editions. The next day they come out. The New York Times, banner headline, "God says world to end tomorrow. News and analysis, page D11. Lead story is the biosphere thing. You believe those nuts? I mean, they create this thing to recreate the Earth's environment. They don't have to go inside something. We are the Earth's environment. I mean, they put a bunch of animals inside an igloo and think they're it's stupid. Then the Wall Street Journal. banner headline, God says world to end tomorrow, market to close early. USA Today, banner headline, we're gone. Washington Post, God says world to end tomorrow, women and minorities hardest hit. That okay? Then there was the guy who was accused of shooting and eating a California condor. If there's anybody here from Rio Linda, it's an endangered bird. And there could be people here from Rio Linda. There probably are, judging from her facial expression. Didn't bring you here to insult people. It's just a joke. His lawyer says, I can't help you. This judge that's trying your case, this man is just tirelessly devoted to animals and the environment, and you don't have a prayer, you're going to get the max. He says, no, I won't. You've put me on the stand. So the day trial begins, and the judge calls him to the stand. The judge says, I understand that you really did this. I mean, this is not something, it's not a false accusation. You really did shoot and eat a California condor. Yes, Your Honor, I did. Well, why? Don't you know it's an endangered species? Why would you do that? He said, Your Honor, look. I was out in the woods, I was hunting. And I got lost in there. And I couldn't find my way out, and I was by myself. I got lost in there for 17 days, Your Honor. And all I had to live on was leaves, berries, whatever I could steal from squirrels. I was going in and out of consciousness. I was delirious. I was starving. And I'm in and out of sleep one morning or one time of the day, and something flies over me. And I instinctively grabbed for my rifle, and this thing fell out of the sky, and I ran over to it, and I just started eating it right then and there. I didn't know what it was, Your Honor, I tell you. The judge says, well, I had no idea these were the circumstances. Gee, I mean, we must always rule for the primacy of human life. Not guilty. Court erupts. Guys walking out, media come up. Hey, hold it, before you go, we gotta know, what does a California condor taste like? He said, well, it's somewhere between a spotted owl and a bald eagle. I'm gonna push the envelope with just one more. And believe me now, all of my humor, the humor that I use in situations such as this and on my show, I try to always have it socially or politically oriented from the conservative side. And I get amazed at how many people say, man, this guy is so cruel. Why? Making jokes about the homeless, which I don't do. And making jokes about all these people. Have you guys ever watched Saturday Night Live and seen how George Bush and Ronald Reagan are routinely trashed? I mean, I think it's only quid pro quo, and I think we're still way behind considering all the conservative institutions that are made fun of. I'm very concerned about education. I quit college after 1 year to pursue my radio career because, like all 20-year-olds, I knew everything. And I didn't need to know any more. I had everything I needed to be a star. And a year later, I realized how dumb mistake I had made. And so I began reading everything in sight with the purpose being to be able ultimately to demonstrate what I learned and what I knew, because I wasn't going to have a college degree which stated this person is educated. He has a BS or BA or MA or MFB or whatever you get. I was going to have to demonstrate it. So I began my voluminous and omnivorous reading. Geez, I'm not even making a joke. Laughing. And since then, the role of education in our nation's future has become, as I have grown and matured, become even more profoundly important to me. So before I get into some serious aspects of it, let me give you a little joke here that is got some truth in it, but yet it's funny and you'll love it. It's a California high school classroom, 75 students, history. All but one of the students are Native Americans. And I don't mean Indians. I mean boys and girls born in the United States. The 75th student is from Japan. The teacher says, all right, who said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country? And one hand went up. Little Japanese kid's hand went up. And the teacher just said, I can't believe that 74 of you kids born and raised in this country can't identify one of the most profound and popular quotes in this nation's history. None of you have any idea? And the lone hand remained up, belonging to the young Japanese child. Said, all right, who said it, sir? And the Japanese student said, it was John Kennedy in his 1961 inaugural address. And the teacher, that's right, and then went ballistic. Just excoriating the kids in this class. How embarrassed they ought to be. Why, I can't believe that I have this group that's gotten this far. If you don't know this, I don't know how you got into this class. Then it starts, and somewhere in the middle of the room, some kid says, dumb Jap. Teacher says, we will not have that kind of talk in this classroom. I will not stand for it. Who said that? I want to know right now who said that. And the voice shouts, Harry Truman, 1945. That okay, Phyllis? Thanks, Morton Blackwell. By the way, I want you to know that I just today arranged to transfer all my money to the House of Representatives Bank. Can you believe 9,000 checks in 1990 bounced, and most of the people who bounced the checks were Democrats? That figures. Now, there's some serious things to say about this. A, it goes to show just how out of touch they really are with what it's like to live in this country. You and I could no more bounce check after check after check with no penalty, with no interest, and get away with it and have the bank cover it. They're spending, and some of these checks were $2,000, $1,000, money they didn't have, and that they still claim they want to raise. They are spending their own money like they spend ours. And so a bunch of freshmen, and while this is going on, they demand to see every expense voucher of John Sununu's. They want to know every cocktail Lamar Alexander consumes while on business. They demand to know what kind of extravagant privileges are being taken by the administration. Well, the Speaker of the House, Tom Foley, in a unique move, took to the House floor today to say the bank will no longer conduct this procedure. And 7 Republican freshman congressmen are demanding that the names of the people be made public. Now, Congressman Foley, in traditional liberal Democrat fashion, said, no, that wouldn't advance anything. That wouldn't serve any purpose. These guys are saying, you know, I'll be darned if I'm going to go back to my district and have my voters think it's one of me, or that I'm one of them. I'm not doing this. And the whole House is being tarnished when it's just a bunch of liberal Democrats. There's some Republicans in there too, but some liberal Democrats doing this. This is a burgeoning thing. We've heard about this just in the past couple of days, and it hasn't gotten a lot of play. But this is going to be a big deal because Newt Gingrich called my office this morning, only I wasn't there. I was in Kansas City. But he intends to make a big deal out of this. There are a lot of people who do, because this goes to the heart of so many things wrong with our entire budgetary process and the way we, the American people, are blamed for that budgetary process. We are not paying enough taxes. You got too big a tax cut during the Reagan years. Now it's time to pay for the party. And they gloriously raise taxes. The budget deficit's at an all-time high. The economy is much worse than anybody's telling you. And the reasons nobody's complaining about it is because the people who tried to fix it last fall have caused it. And everybody knows it. And they can't stand up and say, point fingers of blame at anybody else, because if they did, they'd have to point fingers at themselves. And they won't do it. And now the poverty statistics came out, and I cringed when I saw these, because what's going to happen is they're going to find a way to blame this on the 80s. They're going to blame it on Republican policies and conservatism, which is heartless and cruel and doesn't care. And my friends, two things about it. Don't forget this. The poverty figures do not calculate assets owned by people, nor do they calculate the amount of benefits that these people receive, food stamps, welfare, whatever it is. Now, this is a two-edged sword. I mean, without the welfare, they'd be in worse shape than they are, but with the welfare, they're in better shape than these figures tend to indicate. However, with the numbers going up, you say, oh, the American system is failing. It's not. We are, as a government, spending far too much money trying to get more and more people imprisoned on federal dependence, because that's what empowers liberals. And these figures prove it out. And don't let anybody tell you that these poverty figures are a failure of conservatism, because I am, as a conservative, growing very weary of people telling me that I don't care, of telling me that I'm a heartless person, or that all of us in this room who are conservatives are heartless. Jack Kemp, thank you. This is a response. That is a young skull full of mush. Life is going to be so much better for that young, is it a man? I knew that. Look at it. I can tell that's a boy by looking at it this way. The bottom line of what Jack Kemp said, the best thing that's ever been said about compassion. We conservatives define compassion by the number of people who no longer need federal assistance, not by counting the number of people who currently receive it. I'm told that I hate people, that I make fun of the homeless, that I have my hate lists and so forth. Well, let me counter that by saying I love people, and I want the best for every person that can be. I am for the structuring of economic circumstances so that people with as few shackles and regulations as possible can invest in themselves to whatever degree they want and become whatever they want. I am not one who thinks that giving a homeless person a shopping cart is compassion. Imagine, but the homeless advocacy gets great credit for compassion. Here, my man, here's your home. Here's a shopping cart. Now, we laugh. We laugh, but there's nothing funny about that. In Santa Ana, California, they're giving the homeless 60-gallon trash cans with wheels and lids. And they're saying, this is your home. And they're thought to be doing a great thing. So human beings they're giving these things to, and they're being given credit. How do you help the homeless? You teach them to access the opportunity, and this goes for anybody who is down and out. You teach them to access the opportunities that exist in the country. There are plenty of opportunities out there, contrary to what the doom and gloom crowd says. You teach them self-reliance. Isn't it amazing when you run around the country today and you're talking to the compassion fascists who think that the only solution to unemployment is more benefits? Wrong. The solution to unemployment is a growing economy. Why don't you guys do something in Washington to grow the economy instead of ask for more money to give away to people who don't have jobs? Okay?
President Limbaugh.
Yeah.
Would you hand me my water, Phyllis? In case you didn't hear it, the man just said President Limbaugh. You know, Am I perspiring profusely? I was at a party. What day is this? It was Tuesday night. The National Review and the New Republic decided to throw a joint cocktail party at the University Club. Amazing I got in because I don't have a degree. I think you have to have a degree to get in unless somebody sponsors you at the University Club. It's at 54th and 5th Avenue. What they were trying to do was put on a bash for advertisers. The magazine advertising market is really soft, and they thought they'd combine their resources and go to advertisers. They'd buy both books. I mean, we both reach the same kind of people. Some are conservative, some are liberal, but they're erudite, they're educated, they have opinions, and they're people who matter. And I was fortunate enough to be invited. They wanted me to come be one of the hosts. And, I mean, life for me is an adult Christmas every day. I mean, it really is. The things that have happened to me, I walk in there, and Mr. Buckley, who had extended the invitation, is already there. And he sees me walk in, and he comes running up to me. Mr. Limbaugh, but please. And urged me over to have a picture taken with him for Advertising Age magazine. He says, you watch this. This man's going to be president someday. And I said, whoa, no, please. I could never be elected president. I mean, I don't even want to run for dog catcher. I really don't. But I mean, it's just, it's a flattering thing to be so thought of and so accepted by these people, and the same thing goes for you too. It's, as I say, you are part of the adult Christmas as well. But loving people and wanting the best for them is what we all want. Let me tell you a little story. This will sadden you. Elise told me this. It happened today? Just tonight. While you were in here listening to Congressman Dannemeyer, or just prior to it, Elise was out in the hall, and a couple walked by. Well, how old were they, would you say?
In their 60s.
In their 60s. And they said to Elise, what's going on in there? And Elise said, what's Phyllis Schlafly and her group? Have you heard of Phyllis? Oh, yes. Phyllis Schlafly. She's the woman who thinks crack babies should be born, that all crack babies ought to be. She's the woman who thinks that women should be forced to give birth to babies they don't want. And Elise was telling me this story, and we were sitting outside waiting to come in tonight, and it saddens me to no end that the pro-life side is viewed the way it is, as though we somehow want to punish people for crying out loud. All we want to do is fulfill a natural law, God-given right to life. That's all we want to do. How is that punishing? Now here's the observation, and I'm not bringing this up to make anybody uncomfortable, but I have to say it. These two people are not leaders of any movement. They're just people, and I have a theory. The rank and file, meaning the general population, who get involved in all this frivolous Earth Day activity, or run around and march for this group's rights and that group's rights, or who march in abortion rights marches, all they're doing is making themselves feel good. They think they're on the cutting edge. They think they're exercising compassion because they are inundated each and every day with the propriety of that position. And it amazes me that they don't stop and ponder intellectually what their decision really is. To decide that somebody would be better off to not live because they might suffer in life. I'm aghast. I don't know how true thinking, understanding people, I mean, I can understand the argument that we have over the issue, but with the logic that's thrown out by some of the pro-choice people, I mean, I think it proves they have no moral ground on which they're standing there in quicksand. To have to say that it's like Lisa Steinberg in New York, this little 6-year-old girl who was ultimately beaten by her father and she died, and Joanne Woodward, great sociologist from Connecticut, said, this just shows that if her natural mother had aborted her, she wouldn't have suffered. Well, now, if you do the logic of that, to live is to maybe suffer. To not live is to not suffer. Therefore, it's better not to live. There are people who actually intellectually stand behind that. It amazes me. And I think that one of the reasons that so much of the so-called conventional wisdom in this country is conventional wisdom is because the people who are in charge of conditioning these people are brilliant. It's like the environmentalists and the animal rights people. If you oppose them, you know what you're doing? You're opposing clean water. You're opposing clean air. the way they set it up. If you oppose the animal rights extremists, you are for cruelty to animals. Well, nothing could be further from the truth, but that's where you have to start. You immediately have to defend yourself by opposing them politically. And I think it's something that I try to battle each and every day by refusing to be pigeonholed in that fashion. One of the things that I have noted, the left is very, very clever people. They have, especially the leadership, they have been at the business of molding minds and mobilizing mass numbers of people for quite a long time. And the best illustration I can give you of their evolution is, let's look at the Nicaraguan elections. Remember that? Ortega was going to win hands down. We were happy. And to make sure of it, we were going to send Jimmy Carter down there as an election supervisor. And the results of the election, well, the pre-election polls show that Mr. Ortega will win 60-40. Of course, the poll was taken by some Sandinista with a gun pointed at the person being polled. How are you going to vote Sunday? So the liberals believe the polls. Then the election comes, and when the people can vote in private, guess what happens? Sandinistas are out of there. Liberals are dumbfounded, can't believe it, do not understand it. Now they have adopted two constituencies who can never reject them as the Nicaraguan people did, animals and trees. And now wait, I am serious about this. Because, my friends, the animal rights movement and the environmental movement are the new homes, the new repositories for socialist ideology in this country today. They really are. And the beneficiaries of their care and their compassion can't say, stop, we don't want your help. And they can never be discredited. This is not, I don't say this in a half-baked fashion. And I'm fortunate I have the opportunity to alert the American people, because people are in their hearts good and well-intentioned. Bernard Goldberg of the New York Times wrote a piece once of 60 Minutes, or 48 Hours, a CBS show. He wrote it for the New York Times, and he said, why does the media spread the myth of heterosexual AIDS? Why does the media spread the myth of homelessness? There aren't 3 million homeless, and never have been and never will be. Why does the media do these things? Because the people in charge of ostensibly solving these problems all have good intentions. So what if Mitch Snyder is making the number up? At least he's trying to do something. And that's how the media gets caught up. And if you find out who the media is, go to your favorite journalism school, walk down the hall, say, why are you here? Journalism student here that's there will say, well, I want to make the world a better place. Well, why are you here? I mean, you should run for office and get elected. That's not what journalists do. Journalists just chronicle what happens. Oh, no, we must make the world a better place. So you end up with a bunch of utopian idealists in journalism. The Republicans all go to MBA school because journalism doesn't pay worth a squat. That's why you have no conservatives in the press. They're trying to make money. They're all out there trying to be Mike Milken. Just kidding. So seriously, you have the dominant media culture populated by utopian people, idealists who think they're there to make the world a better place, and they run up against people who in their mind are trying. Mitch Snyder. Never mind the fact that Mitch will say 45 homeless people die every second, which adds up to 26 million a year. They won't research it. I think it is part and parcel of the culture war that is being waged in this country. And believe me, I think that we're always having wars in the culture, but this one is, I think, protracted, and it's not being helped by governors like Pete Wilson, who are redefining conservatism so that you don't recognize it anymore. While calling himself a conservative, he looks like a Rockefeller Republican. I don't know. In fact, I'm going to give you some news tonight because you don't know this. I was watching President Bush's speech tonight while you all were down here at your cocktail party and listening to Congressman Dannemeyer. Now, the president I must admit, I am confused. And I think that the Democrats have a golden opportunity to really make some headway against George Bush in this election on a number of economic fronts. I think he is vulnerable. I think the saving grace is that there isn't a Democrat who knows how to exploit the vulnerabilities. They'll blow it with the class envy and class hatred that they get into, and they'll really miss it. The budget deficit's higher than it's ever been, and Bush seems more concerned about foreign policy than anything else. Now, I've talked to Sununu about their plans on the domestic agenda, and they've got a good campaign strategy. They've got a lot of money, and when the campaign starts, that's where they're going to make the case for how their domestic policy has been marvelous and it's been great. They just haven't gotten any cooperation in Congress, which is true. They're going to talk about how they have given parents choice in education, and the child care bill, I think, is a great bill. They haven't gotten any of these things, but they've tried for them, and they're going to make the point that their domestic agenda has been one which Sununu said if ever it passed, George Bush would go down in history as the most conservative president in the country, which also makes me suspicious because I don't know that that's possible. But the reason he's vulnerable, we've got the highest budget deficit ever, and we've got admittedly a weak economy. It is bad. I mean, there is no question that the economy is more sluggish than people are letting on. People aren't spending money. They have it, they're not spending it. They're afraid to, and that's why the economy is sluggish. The commerce is slow. And Bush seems to be more interested in Mikhail Gorbachev than anything else in the world. And I think this is a problem, especially the way he's concerned about it. Now, I don't think, as I say, the Democrats are going to have the wherewithal to exploit this. Tonight, Bush made this speech is going to have to be analyzed. It's highly technical. It's all about nuclear weapons. I jotted some notes about it. And bear with me. You'll leave here and you'll get home and you'll turn on the Sunday morning TV shows, and I'm sure this will be discussed in great detail. But Bush, in essence, proposed unilateral reductions in ICBMs and mobile nuclear missiles with more than multi-warheads, whether the Russians go along with us or not. That's what unilateral means. His speech is, and I feel confident that our Russian friends will follow us in this. Now, there are some tricks. Now, that's not as bad as that sounds. I'm giving it to you as it happened on TV, and I'm sitting there with my mouth falling open. I'm saying, why is he doing this? It's obviously being done because he thinks that the Soviets are less a threat now, but we all know our own Department of Defense, in its most recent publication, has given us the details of the modernization of the Soviet military, and while their people starve to death, they've got a more modern nuclear force than we do, and we hope they'll follow us as we get rid of ours. Here's one of the tricks. What Bush proposed is to have significant cuts in land-based multi-warhead ICBMs. Intercontinental, strategic is the word applied to them. The trick is, and the Soviets will oppose this because most of ours are not on land. Most of our missiles of that kind are on submarines. Most of the Soviets are on land, and so if they followed us, they would be sacrificing more than we in terms of numbers. There's also another thought to this that struck me. The Soviet Union is a place of great instability today, and many I think this is true. This is what I say is technical, and Morton may know more about this than I, frankly, but I think I'm right on this. I think that with what Bush proposed, if the Soviets do follow, the nukes that they will get rid of are the nukes that are in the republics outside of Russia. Those are the nukes they don't control anyway. Those are the nukes we want to be under somebody's control or gotten rid of. And if the Russians follow us on this, it'll be those nukes that are hopefully eliminated. So as I say, he made a 30-minute speech and talked about how this is going to make us safer and more secure. There's also another thing to this that they only had a couple of minutes for analysis, so I didn't get the full leftist view of this. But Tony Cordesman, who was, for ABC, he was their consultant in the war, the guy that looks like Homer Simpson to me. Well, he does. I mean, he said that some of the things that may be going on here have to do with the domestic situation economically. But Bush in his speech said, don't look for, and he was talking to the Democrats, don't look for any peace dividend here. This is not going to result in massive cuts. In fact, it may cost us money to begin with, he said, to get this done. But in terms of presidential politics, here you have a president who is doing what the leftist peace movement in this crowd has been begging anybody to do for the last 15 to 20 years. Now, if he's doing it, what are the arguments these people are going to have? This is a significant constituency in the Democratic Party. And how are the Democrats going to oppose this? And now the Democrats are going to run around, hey, more money, more domestic money, and so forth. So it may be a slick political move as far as presidential politics is concerned. And I'll tell you, I hate to be cynical, but I really do. But I think that the timing of this speech, coinciding with the bad news on the gross national product this week and the poverty figures, I don't think this is coincidental myself. But again, that's cynicism, and I could be wrong. But I, as I say, doubt it. I don't know also if you heard this week, Joe Biden, the news today, Senate Judiciary Committee 7-7, they deadlocked. Dennis DeConcini is the lone Democrat who voted with the Republicans given the 7-7. Hell, I'm just happy Arlen Specter decided to vote with his party for once. So they then voted 13-1 to send the nomination to the Senate without a recommendation, which, knock on Formica, which should, I think it's a good enough sign that he'll get through. But Biden, and you may have heard me discuss this on the program this week, I was incredulous. Senator Biden said, I'm upset with the process of these hearings. It just isn't working. We've got to have some changes, and I'm going to conduct hearings later on next week into how we change this. I'm saying to myself, they're your hearings. I mean, you have the power to do this right, or to do it like you've been doing it and botch it. And you want to conduct hearings. Here's a guy, and then he says, maybe we need to appoint a special counsel. It's really, this is the mindset. They look for scandal. The Democrats can only achieve power by finding scandal somewhere in the opposition. Special counsel means we got to find somebody who's going to get to the bottom of this. And then he floated maybe a special prosecutor. Now, what do prosecutors do? They pursue convictions. They pursue guilty verdicts. That means in Biden's view, every nominee that comes up is a suspect. And if he wants to know why the hearings are going the way they are, if I were Clarence Thomas and I had listened and read and seen what was said about me in the 6 weeks or 8 weeks before the hearings, I sure wouldn't say anything to these guys. This is a commentary on how rotten it is now. Your best shot at getting confirmed to the Supreme Court is for nobody to know what you think. Now, what does that say about the process? And for Senator Biden to sit there and lament the fact that do you know people know who Lawrence Tribe is? Yeah. Lawrence Tribe is a Harvard law professor. And Lawrence Tribe is routinely trotted out by Nightline and all the other shows whenever there's like Operation Rescue in Wichita, and they want the leftist view of how these people are violating the law and they ought to be put in prison for life. Go get Lawrence Tribe to explain it for you. Well, Lawrence Tribe helped coach always. Every time a Supreme Court nominee, Tribe prepares Biden. Tribe is a paid consultant. I think he gets paid. I can't believe he would do it for nothing. He's a Democrat. But seriously, during the Bork hearings, they went over to Biden's house and they had mock hearings. Tribe played Bork and Biden aped himself. This is true. I'm not making it up. I never make anything up. And he wonders what's gone wrong with the process. I mean, bring a guy over to your house. How can we nail this guy? They're not trying to discover whether Clarence Thomas is fit. They're not trying to determine whether or not Clarence Thomas is judicially qualified and intellectually capable. They're trying to find some reason why they can get rid of him. They're trying to trip him. I mean, asking him 76 times what he'll do on abortion. That's impeachable as far as I'm concerned. The Senate has no right to control what happens on the Supreme Court. And if the Senate Judiciary Committee says, we're not going to send your nomination up with a recommendation unless you tell us how you're going to vote on this, 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 and this, I think they have lost their minds. I think arrogant condescension has overtaken these people. And you can see it in these hearings. And one of my happiest moments, ladies and gentlemen, was to discover in my archives the tape of Senator Kennedy explaining the proper procedure if it's a liberal black judge that's up for confirmation. So that was an incredulous thing that happened this week. I also want to go back to education for just a moment. There's something also that's very troubling to me, and it is called multiculturalism, specifically Afrocentrism. There's an amazing intellectual contradiction going on among black civil rights leaders and black militant leaders like the Reverend Jackson. It's like Frank Sinatra singing New York, New York. It's like the greatest hit. The Reverend Jackson and Minister Farrakhan, they say that they don't want separatism. Is the segregation is bad? They don't want it. Yet they're doing just that academically. We are Americans. There is an American culture, and it's great. America is the greatest place on earth. As Bill Bennett says, perform the Gates test. Build gates around countries on the planet. Open the gates and see what happens. If people rush out or they rush in. United States, they scramble in. Why? There are people trying to alter the educational system in this country. Well, I know why it is, but it's a sad thing that it has so much popular support. If you want to prosper in America, if you want to work for IBM, there are certain things you have to learn. There are certain techniques you have to be taught. And if you want to be an American, you have to be taught about America. I submit, and again, I would counter anybody who says that I or people like us hate. I would counter with this. I don't care about the color of their skin. A black person, an Hispanic person, an Asian person, they live here, they're Americans. You teach them about America. If you don't teach them about America, if you teach them about their native heritage in a place they've never been, to bring a bunch of black kids into a public school and start teaching them about Africa, a place they've never been, a place they're likely to never go, and tell them that that's the most important thing they can learn other than the use of a condom, then you are not preparing people to prosper, be productive, and the country won't be competitive. It is a disservice what's being done to these kids under the guise of compassion. It is a disservice to American kids. These are they're not black Americans, they're not native, they are Americans, and they're being shortchanged, they're being tricked, and they're being... I said this on the air, and I got in a little trouble in New York, and I was proud to get into trouble because I was proud to be able to defend it. Question. How much of tribal Africa will you find in the Federalist Papers? None. So why teach it? You can teach it if you want to have a black studies program, and if you want to do it for self-esteem, fine, but don't use it as a replacement for American history. And we are. This condom thing troubles me. I mean, it's funny. I know it's funny, but it really troubles me. You talk about disservices. To tell kids that the best thing they can do to avoid getting a disease which will kill them is to use this condom. And furthermore, to give it to them without their parents' consent. And for the school board to say to the parents, you don't have any right. I'm telling you, folks, it's asinine. Some of the stuff's going on. It is literally asinine. And I, for one, am growing weary of being told that I'm the one who's wrong, and I'm the one who's looking at this in a cockeyed fashion. I'm getting tired of being told when, this, I think, brought it home the other day. If I can remember this. This is what it was. Some commie libs said in a press conference that the Catholic Church is the big loser in the condom distribution plan in New York. And it struck me, this is just a political game to these people. This really is just part of their political agenda, to get these condoms and to get these kids disobeying their parents. Get these kids under the thought control of people at schools and away from their parents. And Cardinal O'Connor made a sermon and he hit it nail on the head. The kids are the losers. We're not the losers. The kids are the losers. This is not a political game to us. We care. And I am getting sick and tired of people like us being told we don't care, that we're trying to punish, when I think we are the epitome of it. And I urge you not to give up. I urge you not to grow weak in face of the dominant media culture being left and therefore always making fun of people like us. You turn on a television show, watch a movie, they make fun of what we believe. They make fun of belief in God. They make fun of a traditional family. They make fun of Donna Reed's show and all. They make fun of all those things. And it's going to get even worse. And I urge you steadfast. What Phyllis has done here with this organization is more than admirable. It is a tremendous service to the people of this country. And Phyllis is vilified. Phyllis is made fun of by feminazis and women who think they're on the cutting edge, but they're not. And she smiles and accepts it and keeps plugging away. I am honored that the direction of my life has taken me into your midst and amongst you. You are the people who give me the confidence to keep doing what I do, because it's lonely out there. It really is. And I thank you very much.